Hello, everybody. Welcome along. Cricket Badger podcast time. And we are looking back at the second test in Multan, the second match in Multan. A very different kind of vibe, I think, with the second test than we saw in the first test. First test was all about counting runs, counting milestones, chalking off the records. The second test, I thought, was a far more compelling contest, with the ball getting much more involved, the bowlers getting much more involved, and Pakistan spinning themselves to victory. A very good test match, in my view. Lucas joins me from Australia. Lucas, I know you've been watching it as well. 152-run win for Pakistan, levels the series up at 1 apiece, and fully deserved, I think, from Pakistan. The toss was important. Toss wasn't the be-all and end-all. Pakistan still had to work for the win and came out worthy winners.
Hello, James. Thank you. This Pakistan clearly were dominant in this test match. Toss was important, not crucial, but halfway through day one, where Pakistan were 2 for 160, you think, oh, here we go again. This is just going to be another 500 score pitch. Is this ever going to end? But this pitch after day two just completely took a tide for the worse, or for the better. If Pakistan's case started to spin heavily, mind you. Sajid Khan was fantastic, and England a little bit of mix of silly shots. There were some good balls in there, but no, this was, I thought Pakistan really dominated this test match, and England were always chasing, in my opinion. Had of course a toss. If England were batting first, maybe, but I thought the difference was the spinners from Pakistan, much more better than what we've seen. And I think this is their first win since 2021. Something ridiculous.
It's been a long time. And I was watching the match today and seeing the Pakistanis rolling up to the ground to kind of get that victory moment, because it's been a while since Pakistan fans have been able to celebrate success. So well played to Shan Masood and his team, and well played to Dizzy Gillespie as well, for getting Pakistan back on the straight and narrow, or on the turning tracks rather, because the surface was totally different. For me though, Lucas, as I said in the intro there, it was a much better watch. It's nice to see somebody scoring a 100. It's nice to see Joe Root go to the top of the pile. But this was a very different kind of cricket match, and better for it, I thought, with the spinners. That's kind of part A to the question, but the other part is, I think Pakistan need to play to their strengths. I've been saying to you all the way through this that if I was a Pakistan head honcho, I'd get turning tracks, because the one thing England don't do very well is play spin very well, with few exceptions. When an England batter gets a century on a turning wicket like Duckett did in the first innings, it's almost hailed as the best innings ever, because they are quite rare for England to come up against real snaky tracks and come out on top. And so it's a real test. It's going to be interesting to see how the pitch in Rawalpindi plays. But for me, far better viewing spectacle the second test.
Oh, by a mile. That the first 4 days of the first test match was an absolute snorefest, because there was over 1,000 runs of batting, and I don't think that just kills test cricket when it's too much one-sided. As I said, as soon as it started spinning, then that was the real test. And as you rightly put it out, Pakistan's strength, especially against teams from centre, South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia, when it comes to spin, they don't play spin as good as the Asian side. So yes, they should make spin-friendly more pitches. But for some reason, they want to make these hard pitches. Now, for the pitch in Rawalpindi, I can't trust this. I can't trust this board. I think they'll go back to what we saw in the first test match, which you'll see.
I don't get the thought process behind it, because we saw in ODI cricket when England were doing well, and even now, you give England a flat deck, and it is a run fest, and England will trust their batters to score more than the opposition. You make it a turning track, it becomes far more of a lottery for England. And they try. Today it was a sweep. I tweeted earlier on. Basically, it was sweep, reverse sweep, appeal, or a wicket. There was hardly anything else. And it was it seemed to be. I can understand that a batting side not wanting to be a sitting duck and be a target and just stand there and wait for their wicket to fall and prod and poke and be a little bit more on the front foot. But to sweep and reverse sweep pretty much everything that came down, it came off a few times, and obviously a few of them fell to it as well. It didn't seem to be very sensible today from England.
Well, we saw it in India, James, when they just wanted to sweep everything. And you hit the nail on the head. It was either a pure sweep or it was out. Just ridiculous that there wasn't an off switch. And we spoke about this in the Indian series, that when it's spinning like this, something's got to click in your mind just to peg it back a bit. But under this regime, they don't want to do that. They just want to go full tilt. And there was a huge weakness. But I thought the bowling to Ben Stokes by the two Pakistan spinners was excellent. They frustrated the hell out of him. Unlike our bowlers that wanted to bowl short to him every single time he was at the crease and he kept on hitting hundreds of fun, they're very smart with Ben Stokes, I thought, bowling outside off stump. Noman was very clever, keeping the pace down, letting Ben Stokes generate his own pace. I think it was very, I loved it. There was a couple of deliveries that were around about 67 Ks. But I like the cleverness of it because it frustrated England. And they just, like I said, they just wanted to sweep everything. And the slower that you spin the ball, or the slower it comes out of your hand, the more it spins. So that they just capitulated. And this is the problem with this kind of baseball approach. They want to blast everything out the centre. Now, when they go to Australia, I think that we're going to see more green-friendly pitches. They're going to do the same thing. They want to blast every single ball. We saw that in the Ashes last time, James.
Nobody cares about Australia. I mean, all this talk about the Ashes, it just goes straight over my head. It's all about Rawalpindi next. Nobody cares about the Ashes.
But the point is, I think Pakistan. I think they'll see this. Okay, we've leveled the series. Now let's try to have a boring draw. Let's try to make the world's flattest deck, which is wrong after what we've just seen. And let's try to graft a draw, grafting a draw mentality against England never works. It never ever works.
I'd be quite happy with that because they, I did stick up one apiece at the start of this series, so that's the only way I can get one apiece if it is an absolute road. But we will see how the third Test match goes. I thought it was good for Pakistan cricket this because they have been in the dumps, and they've struggled to find a win. They've got themselves into winning positions like they did against Bangladesh, and they've thrown it away. It's been a bit of a hard trek for Pakistan cricket over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So to get this win today, I mean, you know me on here. I don't really. I mean, I'd like to see England win, but I don't really mind as long as it's good cricket, and I get to watch good cricket. And Pakistan deserve to win this week, and I think it's good for Pakistan cricket that they've. I think Buttler will be back. But they've kind of rung the changes. The selectors have been proven right, really, with pretty much everything they've done. Kamran Ghulam came in and scored a century on his debut, played really nicely. That they've kind of packed the spin cordon. We didn't really see much of the leggy, did we? Because it was all Noman and Sajid Khan. But those two have delivered. And Sajid has got his wicket celebration and looks a little bit of a character with his twirly moustache. And Noman looks about 83, despite the fact he reckons he's 38. But he knows exactly what he's doing. He's got guile, flight, takes the pace off, and he really did. I mean, today the dismissals that he got for Crawley and for Stokes just showed the kind of the way he was holding it back every now and again and luring them into his trap and weaving his spell. It was really good to see. So Pakistan have got a few new heroes to support, haven't they? Which is, you always need heroes.
Yeah, we saw a bit of.
Oh, Lucas is gone. He's still there.
We saw a bit of Sajid in Australia. He likes his appeals. One thing about him, he does love his run up appeals. But no, those two. They were fantastic, and it just shows you what these Pakistan bowlers can do given the right conditions. You know, they're not bums off the street. They're not. No, why would you want to play hard rubbish decks for these bowlers to get injured? So they have great bowlers, great depth of bowlers, Pakistan. So why don't you use them properly? Use them to their advantage. And with the Barber thing, I don't think he will be back. Why would you bring him back after what's happened? I don't know.
Because he's quality. He's quality.
I understand. There was a lot of uproar when he did get dropped. Everyone was complaining. I never really understood that. The man has not scored a 50 in 2 years.
They've only played about 8. They've only played about 8 or 9 tests in that period, and his high score's 41. So it's not been vintage Babur. I know that, but we know what he can do at his best. And I think if I was Pakistan cricket anyway, it would be a case of saying, Babur, go away from cricket, spend some time with your family, clear the mind. Maybe spend some time with a sports psychologist, whatever you need to do to kind of freshen yourself up, come back stronger. We'll see you next time. Because there's no doubt, Babur at his best is an asset to Pakistan.
Yeah, of course, yeah. No doubt about that. He is world class in red ball and white ball cricket. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I wouldn't bring him back for the next Test match. I want to see what I thought.
No, he won't play in the third Test. But I think go away and then come back. Next series is a different series.
Yeah, of course.
Where we are.
I think it'd be a mistake if you did bring him back. But no, that's what they'll do. They'll say, go away, get your head together. Probably find some runs domestically, the upcoming season. But I thought the young Dave.
When I say give him a break, I don't mean 1 week. I mean, 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 months where you either go and work in the nets, you go and freshen up, you have a holiday, you do whatever you need to do to recharge your batteries and come back keen and eager.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought the debutant of Kamran was excellent. He was unreal, and a sort for sore eyes. Someone young into the team. An unknown. We don't know much about him because we don't know much about Pakistan domestic cricket.
I don't think he's that young. Was he 29, 28? No. Yeah.
Oh, great. As far as Test cricket, he's a baby to Test cricket. But we don't know much about him. That's not to disrespect the domestic league in Pakistan. But I thought he was unreal this Test match, and I thought, wow, we've got a real good player here. Especially against spin, his footwork was amazing. His shot selection was unbelievable as well, and he showed, the most importantly, showed real temperament for playing his first Test match. Showed real poise. That's very hard to do when you're playing your first Test match. So he was absolutely outstanding.
You could see what it meant to him as well when he got to 50 and 100. He kind of that was when it released, the passion released out of him, and he looked like he was really, really enjoying himself. And I mean, his first class record's excellent, but translating your first class record to Test cricket is a different kettle of fish, and he's done that. And fair play to him. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. It was really good to see him coming in, and it wasn't just a debut he was playing, as you kind of hinted at. A lot of Babur fans out there were very angry that Babur was dropped, and there was a lot of chat on social media. So Kamran came in, didn't necessarily have the full support of the Pakistan nation because they saw him as being, an imposter wearing Babur's shirt kind of thing, and stood up to it absolutely brilliantly. So those runs he got in that first innings were massive because that allowed Pakistan to get that first innings lead, which ultimately won the match. So I can understand why Sajid Khan was made man of the match, but he got 9 wickets, I think, in total in the Test match. Noman got 11, more cheaply, and obviously bowled them to victory with an 8 in the second innings. But that century from Kamran on Ghulam on his debut was huge. It gave the bowlers something to bowl at, and made them, that all three of those really could have shared the man of the match, and I don't think anybody could have had any complaints. Hello to Umar Khan, who was messages on YouTube with some smiley faces. Hello, Umar. I hope you're well. Very happy, Umar, I think, about Pakistan's victory, and why the devil not? I mean, that just going back to the second innings for Pakistan, they have got a bit of a history recently of falling apart in the second dig. But they stuck to their task, I thought, really well second time around. And those lower order runs that they got, because, a lot of talk around how many did they need to get. I mean, ultimately, obviously, England bowled out for 144. So you could have said 150 would have been enough. But in reality, that wouldn't have been the case, because England would have played slightly differently, I think, if it had been 150. But 200 would have been a challenge. Once they got that lead past 250, I thought, well, this is Pakistan's game now. I can't see England getting 250 or more. And Salman Agha with his 63, Sajid Khan with his 22 down the order. That partnership they shared that took Pakistan's lead from shy of 250 to nearly 300. Again, that was huge because just psychologically, England had never successfully chased a target of 250 plus in the subcontinent. And didn't obviously get anywhere close to doing it again today. So those extra runs towards the end of taking that lead up from sort of 220 up to nearer 300, just psychologically that beats England, doesn't it?
It does. But at the same time, no matter how great Salman and Khan was with the bat, I was a bit disappointed with Leach and Bashir. Now, I know they took 4 and 3 wickets respectively. But I thought in that second innings of Pakistan, I thought when those two spinners really needed to get rid of the tail. Now, I'm not calling Salman a tail ender by any means, because we know he can bat. But I thought they were a little bit disappointing in that regard, because I think Bashir so far has had a poor series. I think Leach has been the better spin bowler this series, in my opinion. But I just thought with the tail there, I thought there was an opportunity to restrict Pakistan to that total you were talking about. And I was just a little bit disappointed with their two spinners, Leach and Bashir. But as I said, take nothing away from Salman and Khan. They were fantastic. But yeah, just a little bit more from the England bowlers, spin bowlers particularly. I thought they could have gave a little bit more, in my opinion, because they actually were good. They like I said, they did pick up 4 and 3 wickets. They were good, but just when you really needed them to wipe the tail, didn't really do that. And I thought that's probably another big difference.
They show really that when any bowler, when he's on top or she's on top, they get the rhythm going and they settle into a spell and they're taking wickets. It's easy, isn't it? It's not easy to do it. You need a lot of skill to do it, but it's easy and you're on the front foot and everybody's happy with life. When a Salman comes in batting with the tail and starts to take the attack back at you, I thought England went very passive in the field and lost their way a little bit towards the end of that Pakistan second dig. And it was almost like reverse baseball. Pakistan were taking it to England, and England didn't really have too many answers. England had got a very bad record at bowling tails out as well, which they kind of lose the strategy a little bit, I think, towards the end of an inning sometimes, England. I thought with that partnership as well, that it could have been nipped in the bud, couldn't it? The 2 drop catches in that over. I thought that Jamie Smith had a very good test in general behind the sticks. It wasn't the easiest track to keep on by any means. Up and down, and a lot of them bouncing twice before they got to him, and then a few sharp chances that he took very nicely. But in a way, you'll be remembered for the drop off Salman early doors, and then obviously about 2 or 3 balls later, Joe Root shelled one at slip as well, and that from that moment on, it felt like it was almost written in the stars that Pakistan were going to go away from England and England wouldn't recover. I saw Ben Stokes as well saying to the Sky guys, because he started to look a bit tetchy in the field. He was kind of starting to look a bit impatient and not happy with life. And I think Ian Ward said to him, put that to him, and he said, I apologise to the team last night because I let my feelings out for the first time in my Test captaincy. I showed what I was feeling inside, and it doesn't necessarily transmit positivity to the rest of your team, does it? And I think he's realised that and has kind of apologised last night. And I really like that from Ben Stokes, because I wasn't necessarily a fan of him becoming captain initially, but he's massively impressed me with his attitude to the captaincy. Some things a little bit too quirky at times, but that's just how he plays. But I think in general, he's a 9 out of 10 so far as a captain for England. And I mean, he would be the first to admit he's probably got things he could have done better. So 9 out of 10, I think, is fair. And he is refreshingly honest, I think, for a skipper. He comes out if he's made a mistake or if it hasn't quite worked out, he'll take the positives in inverted commas, as they tend to say, but he says it as it is. And if he's made a mistake, he'll front up and take responsibility. And I like that in a leader. I think it shows strength to admit frailty is not weakness. And I do like that with Ben Stokes. You watched Jamie Smith, though, behind the sticks. I think so far he's had a decent series with the gloves on.
Well, apart from that job, I think he's been very solid. I think he's been very good, actually. He's been clean behind the wicket. He's been good to the spinner. A couple of times where he's risen up to the ball before the ball's been played at by the batsman. But that does happen in that temperature, when, especially if you're out there for 100 overs, like he was in the first test.
It's a tough job keeping, Lucas, isn't it? Sometimes.
It's a very tough job. No, it is mentally as well very challenging.
I saw somebody in practice the other day, Lucas, who was having a bit of a tough task. Let's play this for the viewers. This is Lucas.
Here we go.
Lucas in practice the other day doing his keeping practice. Have a look at this, everybody. This is how you do it. There's one goes down. Goes and retrieves it. Being fed the ball there. Gets himself ready then. Nicely poised. Yep. Got his shorts on. Gathers his thoughts. Yep. Gets down. And then the ball fired down at him. Oh, he spilt that one as well. That's pick that one up from the right hand side. Now regather your thoughts. Put that behind you. Don't take that into the next ball. Yeah, put your defeats behind you. So the next one's about to get fed to him.
And we're looking for some footwork here, guys. Look for the footwork.
Lucas gets ready. Oh, and that goes down. So there you go, Jamie Smith. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Lucas, who likes to think of himself as the wicket-keeping guru. That wasn't fantastic, Lucas, was it?
As much as I like to give you 100 excuses for that, I've got nowhere to go with those ones. I've got absolutely nowhere to hide. And a bit embarrassing because the keeper is a counties 2 player. And I've said to him, I've been keeping for 5-6 years now. And he said, let's do some drills. And they were literally the first 5 balls. And I think he couldn't believe what was happening. I just said to him, mate, it's been a while. I gave him the excuse. I gave him the BS. I said, I haven't done it for a while, mate. I've been in and out of it. Gave him the old excuse book. No, you can't see his face, but no, he was quite shocked with that. No, I'm just glad that wasn't actually a game. So that's why we practice, folks. That's why we practice. Very important thing to practice.
Every time Lucas mentions keeping on our WhatsApp group, I will play him back that video and say, well, at least he can catch every now and again. Anyway, let's take a moment to thank manscaped.com for their continued support of the Cricket Badger podcast. We'll be back with more chat about the second test very shortly.
If men were squares, shaving would be easy because a flat surface is perfect for a traditional razor. But we're not squares.
What?
Presenting Manscaped's new Dome Shaver Pro. Because we're not flat, we have curves, we have balls, we have round. Where most blades are created for flat surfaces, the Dome Shaver Pro is designed specifically for your big round head. With 5 double-track skin-safe blade heads and Manscaped's Flex Adjust technology, you'll be able to shave your head faster and more efficiently than ever before without the fear of nicks or cuts. And yes, of course it's waterproof. This is Manscaped. So go ahead and enjoy that big, bold beauty. Embrace the spherical essence of your existence. Grab life by the bald. Shop now at manscaped.com.
There you go, manscaped.com. Quote Badger when you check out and you'll get 20% off and you'll get free shipping. And that advert's played for Jack Leach. Jack, if you want that, quote Badger when you check out. You can shave your head every day with manscaped.com and allow Joe Root to shine the ball off the sweat off the top of it, which he was doing as they went through that test match. Anyway, back to the test. Looking back at Pakistan's fantastic 152-run win in Multan. Only one more test to go, one apiece as they head to the third test. There was some debate at one stage about whether the third test will be played in Rawalpindi, but that seems to have been shelved now because there's obviously Imran Khan being held in prison, and there are protests in Islamabad, which is not too far away from Rawalpindi. So there was some debate about the safety, etc. But it seems like those fears have been allayed, and they're going to be heading off to Rawalpindi for Test match number 3. And you'd imagine, I mean, I saw Shan Masood in his press conference saying that he wants as turning track. And there's nothing wrong, to me, there is nothing wrong with a team who play to their strengths. We see it in county. Well, we always used to see it in county cricket, that you went to different counties and you'd know the nature of their tracks. And they would have their team play that. You go to Headingley, it was going to be a seamless track. You go to Northampton, it was going to turn. And there would be different kind of vibes at different grounds. That seems to have disappeared now. There's a lot of very similar wickets across the county scene. And I don't want to see that in world cricket. It should be a challenge to go to a country knowing what you're up against. You go to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, you know it's going to turn, and you know you're going to have to practice and play your heart out against spin. You go to South Africa, you go to Australia, you know it's going to come through and bounce a bit. Yeah, there are different kind of ways of playing, and you pick your team accordingly and you play to your strengths. And I don't think the roads that we've seen 2 years ago or in the first test actually play to Pakistan's strengths in any way. We've seen in the second test, you make it rag a little bit, and in England struggle. And if I was Shan Masood, if I was Jason Gillespie, I'd be on the phone now to the Rawalpindi guys and say, open that up, don't cover it, let the sun bake it, make sure it is absolutely turning from sort of days 2, 3, and 4.
Oh, absolutely. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having your own characteristics of that pitch, no matter where you are. Now, look, for example, Australia, I think that they're going to most likely have green tops for India, because India struggle with green tops. Just like when, centre countries go to Asia, they can't handle the spin. As we just saw with England just then, can't handle spin. So these flat deck roads, let's face it, they don't really suit anybody, really, especially when you're bowling.
They suit Joe Root and Harry Brooks' agents, don't they? Because they're basically going to get runs left, right, and centre. I mean, if that had been the same, if they'd gone to the next door track and it had been the same again, and Joe Root had got another 200, I mean, I'd have been happy for him, but it wouldn't have been great, would it? It wouldn't have been great for cricket. No.
It'd be embarrassing. Not that it hasn't been, but no, that would have been really, really bad. Especially when you're playing on the same pitch as well. So really it was a day 8 pitch. So we didn't really see any turn until technically day 7 on that pitch.
Yeah. Well, that was day 9 today, wasn't it? That was day 9 today. It would have been day 10 tomorrow if they got to day 5. But
it absolutely incredible.
It took a bit of wear, didn't it, to get that to break up? And it wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was turning, but it wasn't horrendous, was it? Even towards the end, it could have been worse.
Oh, much worse. Could have been absolutely appalling to bat on. But yeah, it was one of those pitches where if you got your eye in, you can bat, but you had to be wary. I think Cast probably proved that point when he seemed to be the only one that successfully swept 4s in that, but then got a good ball. So there was absolutely nothing wrong with that pitch. It just turned a little bit, and England's silly shots capitulated.
There were two prize wickets for Pakistan for me. There was getting rid of Ben Duckett last night after the way he played in the first innings was huge. Then getting Joe Root today. It was a marginal call in terms of whether it pitched outside the line or hit him outside the line or not. But ultimately, he was out. And once they got rid of Joe Root, there wasn't really too much fight left. The rest fell like 9 pins, didn't they? To be bowled out before lunch, chasing that score, I think was a little bit embarrassing, despite the fact that Pakistan were bowling so well. So, yeah, it was a very good win for Pakistan by 152 runs. So, one apiece heading to Rawalpindi. In terms of either side, Lucas, in terms of their makeup for the test, obviously they're going to have to look at the track, but if it is as expected, if it is going to have a potential to break up and turn again, Pakistan would be mad not to. Would you bring in another spinner? They've got Rian Ahmed's England in the side. You could maybe replace Matthew Potts or even Ben Stokes with Rian Ahmed and have a third spinner there, and obviously Joe Root acting as a fourth. I'll
tell you the pace bowler I have been impressed by is Cast. Just going like you can't drop him. He was fantastic. In this match with the bowling again.
The only reason to drop Bryden Cast is if he pulls up lame or something off the back of two hard tests. Yeah. But I always knew, I tweeted this yesterday, I always knew he was a decent player. Often in the Captaincy fantasy thing, I pick him as a a player in my team because he bowls well and scores a few runs. But I didn't know he was as good as he is. He's surprised me in how not just most bowlers you take out the county game could bowl one or two very good balls. But it's the consistency. It's doing it session by session. It's coming back for a third stint late in the day when it's been 37 degrees all day. And he's stuck to his task. He runs in. He's built like a pit bull and strong as an ox, isn't he? He's been really good.
He's actually he's a like for Mark Wood. He may not be as quick as Mark Wood, but he bowls at similar length, that heavy ball, runs in. So no, to the back end of your question, I wouldn't even go anywhere near dropping Cast. From what I've seen with the spinners, I've been disappointed in that second innings when they were bowling. So I like to see Rehan. I know he played those tests in India. I like to see what he's got to offer, because it seems to me that they still, when they go to New Zealand, it seems in my opinion that they're still going to keep Bashir over Leach. Despite, I think, Leach being out of the two has been the better bowler. Though Bashir was okay in that second innings yesterday with the ball, a little bit better than what he was. I think they're still going to go with Leach, but I'd like to see if they're going to have that track, then you got to bring in a Rehan. I think they've under bowled Joe Root in my opinion, a lot. Because his figures are better than a part-timer, and I think they've underbowled him.
I think with Shoaib Bashir, he's 21. I think we often forget the fact that he's still young, and spinners tend to get better as they get towards 27, 28 and beyond. So he's got a long time in the game, hopefully, to get better. And all of this experience that he's getting can only do him good for his next visit to Pakistan and for his next test against these players. And I think the ceiling with Shoaib Bashir is a lot higher than Jack Leach's ceiling. Jack Leach is at his ceiling, and Jack Leach is dependable. We know what we're going to get with Jack Leach. He bowls wicket to wicket. He doesn't really, he turns it a little bit, but he's just consistent line and length, bores a batter to death, and hopefully gets him out in the end. Whereas Shoaib Bashir, I think, has got maybe a few more tricks that he can learn and get better as a result of that. So I can see where England's problem lies with that. I think they'll probably both go to New Zealand. Only one will play, but they'll probably both go to New Zealand. But I think England have got a situation where when it comes to the Ashes, or when it comes to India next summer, and you want to play one spinner, do you take the guy who is better now, which is Jack Leach, or do you play the guy who you know is going to be better in 2 years' time?
You can't buy experience. That's what they say. And Bashir, he was fantastic in India, in my opinion. He had a good home series against West Indies in England. So he has gone backwards, but as you said, he is still young. So you are going to get those times where he's going to go backwards. So that's a conundrum. You look at it and think, well, geez, he hasn't had the best. He's been out-bowled by Jack Leach, pending third test. So do we stick with Jack Leach? Personally,
being out-bowled by Jack Leach isn't a bad thing. I mean, Jack Leach is a good bowler.
Absolutely not. Yeah. No, that Jack Leach. Let's not forget Jack Leach was the number one spinner in England for a little while before Bashir came along. So there's absolutely no shame in that. So Bashir shouldn't take that as a defeat or beat himself up by it at all. But I probably, from an England point of view, I probably would stick with Bashir, because an Ashes series, let's be honest, you can't get any more high ceiling or experience than the Ashes. It's the ultimate test between England and Australia. You can't get anything better or more intense. Can he live up to that? From what we've seen in this series, it's another step up from the West Indies. He's failed a little bit. Maybe we'll see what he's. I think they'll give him a go in New Zealand. Like I said, they'll bowl him in New Zealand and see how he goes, to see if he gets a little bit better. And then they've got India in England. So I reckon I'll give him a little bit of time. If he starts to not get better or not improve in India, I think they might say, you know what, Leach, we're going to make you the number one spin bowler in the Ashes, like he was last time. He was their number one choice last time in the Australian series. So I think they'll go with Bashir, depending how he goes in New Zealand, depending how he goes in India. If he's little bit behind it. Again, no disrespect. Stick with Leach because he was their number one for a little while.
I think Shoaib Bashir, 21, you can go to war at 21. You can do lots of things at 21. He's not like a kid, but he's young in cricket terms. But he seems to be quite mature. When I saw him interviewed the other day, he he's looks quite shy in front of the camera, but he's quite mature. You can tend to see whether there's fear in somebody, can't you? When he comes on to bowl, he stares at the batter. He doesn't look like he takes things in his stride. Different kettle of fish, as you say. If you suddenly brought on Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are going full pelt, or it's an Ashes, the first test of the Ashes, and Australia will undoubtedly try and take him down.
Oh, no doubt, yeah.
So there are challenges ahead for Shoaib, no doubt. But I like him. I think I'd definitely persevere with him. I like Jack Leach as well. I don't think either at the moment are going to win you test after test.
No.
But hopefully Shoaib, as I say, it's just it's all sinking in. Hopefully it's all getting in there, and he will be better and gradually go better. And there will be times, there will be series where it doesn't quite work. Any player, whether you're a batter or a bowler, you'll have series where you do better than others, and it's kind of learning from your mistakes and building on your positives, isn't it? And hopefully Shoaib's doing that as he goes through. So I'd stick with Shoaib. I think I like him, and there's a lot to like in him, and that they're kind of some of the more left field selections that England have made. They picked Shoaib out of county cricket when he hadn't really played that much, and they picked Josh Hull out of county cricket when he hadn't really played that much, purely because they like the ingredients. It's not necessarily the taste of the finished pudding; it's the ingredients they like, and they're trying to build on that.
It's interesting that England have done that. They have bled through a lot of bowlers, not so much batsmen, but a lot of bowlers. Contrast to Australia, who have kept the same system for 3-4 years. They haven't really rotated anyone outside of Boland really. Yeah, England, tried Hall, they've tried Cass, Potts. So they are trying to bleed through new bowlers, and that could be very interesting come the Ashes.
Jimmy Anderson said, didn't he? He was interviewed the other day, and he said they're trying to build up this pace battery. You've got a few. Obviously, Ollie Stone could feature in the third test because he's going to come back after his wedding. And congratulations, Ollie. Hopefully that went well for you. But I'm sure if you're going to fly him back, you might as well play him, aren't you? Otherwise, just stay where you are, Ollie. Enjoy your honeymoon. So if you're going to get him back there, surely he plays. And you've got Josh Tongue, who's been injured for a little bit, but he impressed me when he played for England. So they're building up this little stable of faster bowlers. Not all of them are rapid, but Ollie Stone can bowl 90 plus. You've got Gus Atkinson, you've got Mark Woods, you've got potential of Jofra Archer coming back into the test arena because they're talking about him playing a little bit more county championship cricket next year with a view to him coming through to feature in the Ashes and play a few tests. And I think he wants to. And if he gets back to being anywhere near his best, he's always a positive for his side.
Yeah.
So there's a load of bowlers there who are potentially in that squad to come to Australia for the Ashes in 15 months' time. Of those, I don't want to go on about the Ashes all the time we're on, but of the bowlers that you've seen playing for England, including some of those that I mentioned that are not necessarily in this series, who would be the ones that you'd fear the most in terms of that first test?
Well, you can't. As much as we've gone talked about this, saying that you need bowlers that can penetrate the pitches, you can't have the same bowlers. You got at least have one swing bowler in there in case it does. But Wood was the man of the series for England in the last Australian series of the ball. Cass has been brilliant. If you said to me, pick two, I'd say Wood and Cass. Potts haven't been so much impressive with Potts. I don't think Atkins would be effective enough, especially the way he holds the ball. I find that weird, that cross seam. I find that very weird, especially if you're going to have a kookaburra that gets banged up a lot quicker than the Dukes. I wouldn't pick him at all. So probably, of course, Archer as well, depending. So you could have Wood, you could have Cass, Archer, and then a swing bowler. They've gone away from Robinson. I actually did like Robinson. but they've gone completely off him. So that swing bowler is a bit interesting because the swing bowlers they do have, I don't think they'll be the way they hold the ball. I don't think they'll be effective in Australia. So they're Tung's been injured. I did actually like Tung when he played in the England Ashes. I thought he was really good, in my opinion. I haven't seen enough of him compared to Potts and Cast, but I thought Tung showed a lot of promise, and he bowled good pace as well. But those three definitely, Archer, Wood, and Cast for sure. I would have them first down, but you can't go then Stone or another quick. You've got to have some variety, because if you look at what are the bowlers that have done the most damage to Australia in Australia, it's been those penetrating bowlers. South Africa with Rabada. India with Bumrah, and last series with Wood, penetrating bowlers. So that to beat Australia, you need those bowlers. But having said that, you don't need five.
When you say penetrating, you mean hit the deck hard? Yeah.
Oh yeah, hit the bowler heavy ball. Tim Breslin was actually very good at it. Tim Brisbane was successful in that when they won the Ashes here. He wasn't quick by any means, but he bowled a heavy ball, hit the deck hard, and got a lot of seam movement. So I think those are the bowlers that do the damage in Australia, not so much the swing bowlers, because they can't, for some reason, they can't swing the kookaburra as long, except for a pink test where we saw James Anderson pick up 5-wicket haul. Not every test will be a pink test. They've actually named the venues. The pink test will be in Brisbane, which I've been very angry about because I believe Adelaide, it should always be Adelaide. I live in Adelaide, so you can say bias, but Adelaide they were the first ones to put their hand up for it's been successful. We saw the West Indies come here in Australia where they had 30,000 on the first day for West Indies, mind you, 30,000, unbelievable crowds, and they've taken that away for some weird reason, which I don't agree. And they've tried day-night test night in Brisbane and it hasn't worked. So that's something to look at. And differently, the Perth test, it's going to be actually the first test to kick off. Usually it's Brisbane. So that's going to be a first for Perth. So a lot of changes venue-wise for that Ashes series, James.
I was going to ask you about that because the way it's set up, I mean, it's usually the Gabba, isn't it? You go in, you get roasted at the Gabba, and then that demoralises it. I mean, that's the plan, isn't it, from Australia's point of view? We'll blast you out at the Gabba and take away any spirit you've got, and then we'll take it from there. But to kind of change that around, it feels a little bit strange to me. And often, if it is, I mean, hopefully it's not, but if it is a 4-0, 5-0 kind of Ashes, and England have been on the back end of those occasionally, having your SCG and your Melbourne as test matches 4 and 5 almost seems a bit of a waste.
Yeah, so especially because they're two marquee events. The fourth test, the Melbourne test, is Boxing Day. Not all countries have that, but it's our marquee test. And the fifth test is the Glenn McGrath.
I can tell you now, you don't want to be playing at Headingley on Boxing Day. It's a little bit chilly.
I imagine so. And the fifth test is the Glenn McGrath test, Jane McGrath test match for breast cancer, which has been a huge tradition in Australia for at least a decade now. So they are literally, if you want to call them, marquee test matches. I'm surprised we haven't gone to the WACA. That's a ground that is, if you're wondering, it hasn't been neglected. It's been redeveloped. They want to turn that into a world-class ground. They did think that it was going to be ready before the Ashes, and now, unfortunately, because of COVID, that got delayed. Now it's looking 2026. So I think that they call it the West Test, the Optus Stadium, that's probably going to be the last cricket game going to be there for test matches before they go to the WACA. But you are right, they literally start at Brisbane, but last 2-3 years they have rotated. I don't know why. Adelaide have always had the pink test. They're going to have the pink test this year against India, yet they've moved it to Brisbane. Don't know why. So they've done a lot of tripping and chasing around Australia for this Ashes series. Don't know why, but it is what it is.
When I saw it, I thought, that just looks a little bit peculiar from what we used to. Watching either people traveling there or going from watching from England. It just seems a little bit kind of You don't want the dead rubbers to be the showpiece events, which are potentially the MCG and SCG if it is a one-sided affair. Hopefully, though, it won't be. And as England go down not this coming winter, but the weekend after, the winter after rather, not the weekend after. I know there was one thing just before we leave it today. Again, congratulations, Pakistan. But let's very quickly turn our attentions to India, New Zealand, which has been one hell of a test so far. And India getting rolled for 46 in their first innings. Then New Zealand batting on the same surface, making 402. Latest score from the test in Bengaluru, day 3 of that test, because the first day was completely lost to the weather. 172 for 2 India, with Kohli and Sarfaraz Khan at the crease, both in their 40s, not out. The incident you wanted to talk about, though, was a keeping incident, and we've already seen your expertise in terms of keeping, so we need to listen to your every word on this. It was a potential infringement by the sub keeper, wasn't it? Take us through that.
Oh, every time I mention keeping, that's going to come now. I got to wear a body camera for my next game, and hopefully I'll take an absolute one-hand scream and I'm going to upload that, and everything will be forgotten.
It would be helpful. It'd be helpful if you just videoed yourself actually catching a ball, wouldn't it? I mean, call me old-fashioned.
It can only get better from there, James. So I hope. No, there was, and by the way, I'm not surprised with these pitches in India. It seems to me like they are preparing for the Australian series. They've gone a lot seam friendly, which is very rare over there. No doubt they've probably listened to what Cummins and what the board have said about, they want different pitches. So it seems to me that BCI have made them more seam friendly, and we've seen India very vulnerable. However, to the point, there was an incident yesterday with the substitute keeper, Jarrell. Now, Richard Pant got injured with his knee. I think it's the same knee where he had that horrific car accident. So hopefully all is okay with that. He did not keep today and will not keep for the rest of the series. So hopefully he can get back soon, because he's a very important player in India and what the game needs as well, a good character.
He's an exciting player, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, very exciting. Conway was on, I think Conway was on 90. Now, he got bowled. Now, that wasn't in question. He got bowled. But there was a little, before he got bowled, Giroud got his hand close to the stumps. Now, as you know, stumps have those light up bails these days to help see if the bail get off the groove or whatever you want to call it. Now, the bail didn't light up. Now, if you see with a bowler, if he hits the stumps and the bail doesn't light up, you think, gee, I've hit the stumps. What more can I do? I think with a keeper, I think it's completely different because it's human error. If you're a keeper, if you're to a spinner, the first thing you get taught, obviously not to rise up to the ball. The second thing you get taught up is keep your hand behind the line or do not touch the stumps with your hand. That's the first thing you get taught as a keeper. And Giroud, when he tried for the stumping and it managed to hit the stumps, he barely just touched on Snicko, just touched the bails. The stumps. Now, the bails didn't light up because it wasn't heavy enough to touch. But Snicko says he just tipped it. I think that should be not out. I think that should be a no ball because it's a human error. You've made that mistake. You've got your gloves too close to the stumps and you've touched it, regardless if the bail comes up. Now, I'm a keeper, so I should be protecting these keepers in the keeping union. I just don't think that should be out because Giroud's made a human error. Now, he's been fantastic in this test match substitute. I think he's one of the best keepers in the world, in my opinion, keeping. But he's made a human error. He has touched the stumps when it's a cardinal sin not to touch as a keeper. So I think that the umpire gave him out correctly because that's the rule. So I think the rule is wrong in my opinion. I think if a keeper makes a human error like that, regardless if the bail comes off, I think that shouldn't be not out. And I think Conway, in a way, was rightly given out. I think that shouldn't be out of my mind because, as I said, your glove should be nowhere near a stumps. I haven't done that, James. So yeah, I haven't done that. Never done that before.
The counter argument would be he didn't break the stumps, so therefore he hasn't actually changed anything, has he? I take your point, but I can see why.
it's like that's the argument for a bowler when he bowls the ball and the stumps haven't gone out. Now we do see that a lot actually, James, where the ball does hit the stumps and it doesn't come out the groove, even by fast bowlers. And you think, gee, what more can I do? But that's not a human error. The keeping one is a human error. He's touched the stumps. You should, as a keeper, you should be nowhere near that. So I just think that rule should be overturned because of the error by the keeper. But he was given out correctly because that's the rule, so no problem there. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that rule, in my opinion.
Hard to administer that, isn't it? Because you'd have to use technology every ball to see if he's if the keeper's actually touched the stumps. But I see where you're coming from. I don't think it's there are more, in my mind anyway. There are bigger problems to solving cricket than that.
Of course, just from a keeping point of view, us keepers can be branded as idiots sometimes, James, in the keeping union. So we're not like fast bowler. Well, I shouldn't say that because I was a fast bowler. I was a very angry fast bowler, but we're quite timid. The keeping union compared to fast bowlers. But no, it's just a little thing that I wanted to point out. Now, there was one thing in the Pakistan test.
Just before you go on, I just got a tweet and I read it quickly, and it says, "How is this clown getting TV airtime?" I was thinking that's a bit harsh on Lucas, but it was about a tweet I did earlier. It's somebody completely different. It's not you, Lucas. They love you.
I think that myself, James. There was there well now that my keeping is going to be shown every damn 5 minutes. Wonder why I'm here in the first place. No, just a little thing on the Pakistan cricket. I noticed the attitude. We talked about Ben Stokes' attitude. I thought Masood's. There we go. Yeah, there we.
You carry on talking.
And if you see, ladies and gentlemen, I actually did the right thing. I looked at the ball, head over it, footwork, but well, that was concrete feet, so that didn't come off. And the poor county player there telling me that what to do, and I've said to him I'm being a keeper for 4 years, so that's embarrassing on me for saying that and doing that. Oh yeah, okay. That I have to admit that one's a disgrace.
Just breaking news, everybody. Breaking news. Alex Carey has stepped down as the keeper for Australia. He says he doesn't want to stand in Lucas's way. He's seen the video and thinks, "Oh, now this guy deserves a chance." Yeah.
Trying to be serious here, James.
Anyway, back to you,
no,
Lucas,
with attitudes. Now, I blasted Masood, the captain, last Test match for having negative attitude. This Test match, he was brilliant. He was very, very good with his attitude. Now, I don't know, it's because Barber or Afridi weren't blasting in his ear every 5 minutes and having meetings, but I thought him and Rizwan, every time there was a little discussion, Masood was always there. So I thought his attitude in this Test match and his captaincy was very, very good compared to Ben Stokes, as we said earlier, was a little bit, defensive, a little bit, just panicky at times, and then apologise. So yeah,
I think with leaders, captains are obviously the leaders of the team. There are different styles. Yeah, if you look back at Mike Brearley, he was quite a passive kind of looking fellow. He was never going to be pumping his chest and doing a Ben Stokes kind of fist pumping or anything. There are different types of people. Yeah, that's what makes the world go round. Not everybody's going to be visibly berating people. Not everybody's going to be visibly in charge. There are different ways of kind of getting your message across. And I think Shan Masood is maybe a little, I'm not saying he's as good as Mike Brearley was, but he's maybe a little bit more passive in the way he looks on the pitch. It doesn't mean that the players don't know his message and don't look towards him. You don't necessarily have to be a tub thumping kind of captain to be successful, do you? And sometimes those outward appearances can be misleading. I think Shan's probably got a tighter hand on the tiller than than people maybe think. And I mean, but having said that, his record's been awful, and he will be probably one of the most relieved people in the world tonight that his Pakistan team have got a victory and his record doesn't look quite so bad, and he's actually captaining a winning side.
No, he was, and like I said, he was fantastic this Test match, because every time there was a discussion, he was there. He worked really well with Rizwan, whether bouncing ideas or whatnot. Rizwan, I thought Rizwan had a little bit of a moment with the stump mic with DRS, where he said that he doesn't trust the DRS. The DRS is crap. Probably referring to he used a stronger word than that. Probably referring to the DRS with Cummins, where he hit his elbow and he was given out. So probably a little reference to that.
I must admit that one that Rizwan moaned about, I thought looked out to me when I saw it, and even on the replays when I saw where it hit. I know he was bowling from fairly wide of the crease, but it looked like it was going to go on to at least clip leg stump. And it seemed to me, I mean, people don't think everybody realizes that once the ball hits the pad, obviously the ball in real life drops down and rolls away. So the line that goes carries the progress of the ball on is basically all of the computer basically working its way behind the scenes to kind of anticipate where that ball would have gone on. Sometimes when you see the line that goes after the real line, it kind of seems to kind of veer away a little bit and isn't particularly straight. And I thought that one kind of veered away from the leg stump. I think Rizwan had maybe a little bit of a point there.
I think he did too, and I don't like umpires called DRS. I think we should get rid of it, but that's why with stuff like that it has to be in. But then the counter argument is if you cannot get it right, why have the technology? And there is some DRSs where it's umpires called and you think, how? Like how? Especially with full tosses. A couple of years ago, there was one in New Zealand where it looked like it was going to absolutely rock and roll into middle stump and it was missing. You think, how?
Yeah.
So
I think, I mean, we're opening up a massive can of worms here that could take us another 20 minutes to get through. But I thought that I sometimes say that I think that umpires' call should be taken out of the game, and it's either hitting or it's not. But the danger with that, if you say it's hitting or it's not, is you're going to get a lot more wickets because it only has to be kind of clipping the bail with about that much leather, and it's going to be out. So I think over 50% of the ball needs to be hitting for it to be deemed out from there. And I think things like Joe Root's dismissal today, which was umpire's call on point of impact, which to me with the naked eye looked very, very, very tight. In my opinion, that shouldn't have been out either. I think sometimes when you see a ball clipping the very top corner of the stumps and it's literally just kissing them on the way past, that there's too much doubt in that for me for that to be out. It needs to be 50% of the ball hitting for me to be happy with that. People come back at me and say, well, if it's hitting, it's out. If it's hit, but it's not hitting, is it? It's the computer anticipating whether it's hitting or not. And I don't think computers are amazing, and what it does is incredible, but it's not infallible. So I think if everybody said, right, more than 50% of that ball needs to be hitting the stumps for that to be out. Was it hitting? Yes. Was more than 50% hitting? No, he's not out. If more than yes, well, he is out. I know that we need to give umpires a job to do, and we can't just have them as glorified coat stands. But we also, if we've got the technology, don't we want the right results from the technology? Would be what I would suggest, and I think. And I mean, we're getting really off on this now, but I also don't particularly like that keepers and captains are now umpiring matches, and they are ridiculed for getting their reviews wrong. Ollie Pope, none from 13? He's not an umpire. He's standing at square leg or whatever. He's relying on his team. They're there to make the appeal, not to actually decide whether it's in or out. And I think sometimes we get a little bit lost with that the captain's job is to captain his team to to encourage his team and to lead his team, not to necessarily umpire the game. We do seem to have lost Lucas, which is quite opportune because we're going to finish this podcast now anyway. So thank you to Lucas for joining me. Thank you out there, everybody, for watching and for your messages. Contact me on Twitter at cricket_badger. And we have been appearing on the Gaurav Ayan YouTube channel as well. So hello to Gaurav. And if you haven't actually watched his YouTube channel, he does watch-alongs and chats about all of the cricket around the world. So worth digging that out as well. But for now, that is the Cricket Badger signing off. We'll be back again after the third test to have a look at the end of the series in Pakistan. And obviously plenty more Cricket Badger podcasts to come. So enjoy the rest of your days, everybody. And I'll see you again soon. Cheers all.